So we had the Woman Warrior. Jade is not here because she had to go to baseball.
We tried. Okay, the summary. The Woman Warrior focuses on 5 main stories based in Kingston's life. The first one is Kingston's long dead aunt. Her name is No Name Woman. It doesn't actually give us a name. They just call her No Name Woman because they don't want to refer to her because they're kind of ashamed of her.
Oh.
And then there's a mythical female warrior, Fa Mulan, of the Disney movie. I'm not exactly sure. Kingston's mother, Brave Orchid, and then Kingston's aunt, Moon Orchid, and finally a chapter about Kingston, the author. These 5 chapters include short stories and combine Chinese history, myths, and beliefs.
Okay, so one of the main characters was Maxine Kingston, and she was the author of the book. And yeah, so Maxine Kingston is both the author and the narrator of the novel. Just said that. Kingston shares her personal experiences and stories that she learned from her mom and her Chinese culture. And she tries to show her life in an interesting way so people can learn from her experience.
Okay, now we have Brave Orchid. This is Kingston's mother. One of the main themes that comes from this book is Kingston's relationship with her mother, Brave Orchid. They don't have the best relationship, but it's not necessarily the worst. And in this book, we see many different perspectives of Brave Orchid, from fighting ghosts to trying to teach her daughter the finer points in life. And then Brave Orchid considers her lessons very important, and that Kingston can learn much from her, but Kingston doesn't always try to pay attention to her.
Yeah, and the reason for their relationship, like having it be like a difficult relationship, is because Brave Orchid is hard on Kingston because I think she sees Kingston as like a part of herself, like when she was younger. So like she's just trying to not have her make the same mistakes that she did.
Trying to live through her.
Yeah. Kind of. Another main character is Moon Orchid, which is the no-name aunt.
No, this is
Oh.
Moon Orchid.
Oh,
You
right,
said her
right,
name.
okay, Moon Orchid, sorry. She was in the 4th section of the book, the main character throughout that. She's a sister to Brave Orchid. When we first meet Moon Orchid, we find out that her husband left her in China to move to the United States and takes a new wife. When Moon Orchid finally arrives to America, she doesn't want to confront him, and she's kind of labeled wimpy by her sister Brave Orchid. Brave Orchid confronts him instead of Moon Orchid, and Moon Orchid is a complicated case, I guess. She eventually is admitted into a mental asylum where she later dies. And Brave Orchid
Yeah, she
visits,
goes crazy.
yeah, because of this event with her husband. Brave Orchid visits Moon Orchid when she's in the mental asylum, and Moon Orchid like introduces her daughters, and which aren't really there, but like she has a bunch of them.
Yeah, she kind of makes them up.
Yeah, she makes them up as she goes, and then she's more proud. She's proud of all of them, but like she tells how she's more proud of the pregnant ones, I guess, even though there's no such thing as the daughters, because she's crazy. So.
Okay, now we have some vocabulary. Opaque means non-transmitting or reflecting light or radiant energy. In this book, they're really focused in the first 2 chapters about like spreading your energy, but they consider some opaque because they're not really reflecting themselves out. And then ingot is a block of steel, gold, or silver, or some other type of metal, typically in a long oblong shape. It's usually round and ovalish in shape. And then dromedary is an Arabian one-humped camel, especially one of light and swift breed training for riding and racing. A perch is a place where someone or something rests and sits, especially one where it's high and they look down on. They perch on their enemy or prey. And then paradox is a statement that contradicts itself. This book's full of a lot of paradoxes.
Do they perch on their enemy or prey, or do they perch somewhere and watch?
They perch somewhere and watch.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Sorry.
Either that or like ghosts, going to a theme of ghosts, they perch
Yeah.
on the enemy
Ah,
because
okay.
they want to
Yeah.
like attack him.
It goes both ways.
Okay, so I'll read Jada's big idea. She said that I think that the author did a good job representing the life of the women and femininity in China. Kingston talked about how her aunt was treated in this time period because of what happened to her. She also mentioned how the family was treated and how people in the towns and workplaces reacted to the situation. The effect that the community made on the aunt was very negative and made the story very interesting. So right now we didn't really address the aunt.
No name aunt?
Yeah, that was
She's
kind of
the
a
main
shame.
focus of the first big chapter.
Yeah,
That's not
and
bad.
so she was pretty much forced. She was the only child in their family, and this was Maxine's dad's like family, and she's the only girl out of all other guys,
Boys.
and whatever.
No, cool.
Okay, and so she was forced to have sex with this guy because I don't know for what reason, he was just being a meanie.
I think she got
And
raped.
yeah, well, pretty much. And then she got pregnant, and the whole village, because of that, the whole village was like chastising her, and they made a plan to go raid her home. And so they were just sitting there, like their whole family was just sitting there in one room, kind of locked away, while everyone invaded their home and trashed it. And then after that, she was about to give birth, but she like went to look for a place where she could like,
Deliver it safely.
no,
Yeah.
no,
She hid in a well.
no.
Yeah.
She went to a place to look where she could kill herself.
Oh, she killed herself
And then
in the well.
she went back.
Sorry.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry. I forgot the
Oh
book
my
a little
gosh.
bit. It's been a while.
Tomato cow.
It's been a
She
while.
hid in a well. Oh yeah, she killed herself in the well.
And then
Sorry.
she went back to her house, and except she couldn't like hold it in anymore, and so she kind of just pooped out the baby, like not pooped, you know, giving whatever, pooped out the baby in like where they have their pigs
Yeah, it
and
was
stuff.
in the barn, you know.
Yeah, and then because she couldn't get back into her house, and then she was like, "Oh, I'm ashamed. I'm gonna go kill myself." Where she went to the well, and then she pretty much jumped in there with her baby. And
So what this is really showing is an extreme blame the victim mentality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Wait. That's not what.
So she killed the baby with her?
Yes, because she was. The baby was a girl also, and that was like
They don't get treated.
a big idea. Also not our big idea, but like it's a big theme because there was only one girl in the family to begin with, and she had a girl, so like she should have let her live, but she didn't because the whole village would be like throwing rocks at her and stuff, like because that was Chinese culture.
Okay, you good?
So.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, my big main idea was explaining Chinese culture. Kingston does a very good job explaining culture and Chinese myths and beliefs throughout her story. Like she'll give examples just of low life, but she'll put it into the beliefs in culture. She uses these examples so the readers can get a deeper meaning of the audience. She does a very good job incorporating these examples. Kingston uses these myths and as in religion as her examples. It is very symbolic of how our culture works, and is trying to share this with the readers. In Chinese culture, they use a lot of myths and beliefs to show, to explain everyday occurrences, and Kingston uses this in her book. Like she uses Fa Mulan, the warrior.
Because that was part of her family.
Yeah, it was part of her family, but this was still a myth and belief in China, and she uses this to show how you move through life and how you're supposed to keep going and not just quit and stop.
You and I spent quite a while talking about this.
Yeah.
But
And
it's
how-
not a myth or a belief, it actually happened.
Yeah. And how, well, let's go
Legend.
back
Legend.
to here.
Yeah.
And how she uses culture to do that. But we talk quite a bit about how oftentimes it's frustrating for readers
Mhm.
how she does that, and you don't figure it out until later. Can
Yeah,
you talk about that a little bit?
It took maybe to like the 4th chapter until Miss Lampert explained to us that this is kind of a coming of age story, until we finally understood what this book was about. And I have to admit, it was a very hard book to read. It was very slow, and it was very frustrating to read these myths and beliefs because you never really knew what was happening. Like they would explain like a dragon, and then you're just supposed to know what the dragon means. The dragon was representing the world and how its back is the mountains and its breath is the wind, and it was very complicated.
Alright, my big idea. I think that the author does a good job for the representation between life and death. This is like the whole section on like the fighting ghost thing, which we do a scene in, but you'll see that later. Okay, she uses ghosts to represent life and death, and I like her use of ghosts, even though it can get a little long.
Very long.
I think that she uses ghosts to represent how life goes on, but the past can drag you down. The fight scene between Brave Orchid and that ghost in her dorm, I think she called it a sitting ghost because it actually sat on her. Okay, anyway. In her dorm shows that the overuse of ghosts can also represent that you should never forget the people that have passed on, or you'll be sorry, at least according to Brave Orchid's culture. So like, yeah.
So you have a new cultural awareness.
Yeah. Okay, so we found 2 critical responses that were positive. One person goes, it was remarkable as an account of growing up female and Chinese American. It is anti-nostalgic. As a dream of the female Avenger, it is dizzying and elemental, a poem turned into a sword. And then the other, that was from the New York Times, and then from the Chicago Tribune, they said it was superb. We are in the presence of a splendid raconteur who shares with us the myths and stories that emerge from the load of culture's deepest realities.
I think it's called raconteur.
Raconteur, sorry. Thank you.
Raccoon.
Okay,
Wait,
so,
oh, you're gonna respond to those? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're just going to share the negative one first.
yeah. So the negative critical response. One of a very few books I've started reading and been unable to finish. The digressions were just too much for me, and I couldn't get invested in the story, or the characters, or the writing.
I have to agree with this guy a lot more than the positive ones. It was very easy to lose interest.
It was, because sometimes the ideas that she had just dragged on and on and on, and I'm like, just stop.
Just quit.
Like, in the section with the ghost, she explained the sitting ghost, and then she went on to tell how many ghosts she sees in her lifetime. Like, I don't need to know that.
And she spends like a solid 60 pages on this. Give or take a few, but it was a lot.
It's intense.
But there were some good sections, like the first and second chapters were very easy to read because they were exciting. It was almost a fiction standpoint, but then the nonfiction came in and it dragged it quite down.
Are you gonna say anything? No. Okay.
Okay. That's consistent with what I've heard from other readers who get frustrated with it.
Yeah.
They struggle with the vignettes, the idea
Yeah.
that you have this thing and it connects to this thing and you're not quite sure how it connects.
Yep.
And then they struggle with the pacing. So you're consistent with several other people. I
Because
know.
it starts like, most books start off slow and easy into the excitement. It's like excitement and then nothing.
Yeah. No, that's pretty much how it. Okay, so we did the ghost scene as I was talking about earlier when
Oh no.
the sitting ghost is on top of Brave Orchid, except we're not going into that much detail. We're just going to when the thing happened, and then he's telling this. Okay, so Brave Orchid is in a dormitory with a bunch of girls, so he's a girl, and I'm 2 because Jada's not. Keep going.
Do you
What?
want someone to
Yeah.
play Jada's
Oh.
part? Because I would totally do that.
Okay, yeah.
I would totally.
I'm so excited.
So excited she's
Okay.
falling down.
So I don't
Okay,
have
you
a
just read with
separate
her.
piece of paper.
Thank you, Johnny.
Do I get to act or do I just think?
You get to
basically-
act. Okay. So
Oh, I will start.
And-
I am Brave Orchid, the mother of Kingston.
yeah, just wait. But Brave Orchid is like explaining what happened during the whole night that she.
Encountered the ghosts.
Yeah, ghosts. Just one.
Oh, just sorry.
Just
She was explaining more ghosts. She only counted for one.
yeah. Okay.
Altogether, I was gone for 12 years. But in this room, only an hour had passed. The moon barely moved. By silver light, I saw the back thing pulling shadows into itself, setting up magnetic whirls. Soon it would suck in the room and begin on the rest of the dormitory. It would eat us up. It threw boulders at me. And there was a sound like a mountain wind, a sound so high it could drive you crazy. Didn't you hear it?
Yes, I heard something while I was trying to sleep. I heard something like that of babies crying and tortured people screaming.
Oh, I recognize that. It must have been the singing I heard in my dream.
It may even be sounding right now, but we can't hear it in the daytime. It may even be listening right now.
Yes, it gets fatter at night and slimmer during the day, so you can't catch it. You have to help me rid the world of this disease. After classes, come back with your buckets, alcohol, and oil.
Later that day, the room was set ablaze by the women of the dormitory.
I told you, Ghost, that we would never come after you.
That we would come after you.
That we would come after you. That sounded wrong.
That we would come after you. Okay. No, we did it. Should we
This
say
is
it
the
again?
best
Yeah,
part.
say it
Okay, we told you, Ghost, that we would come after.
That we would come after you. That one was mine.
Run, Ghost. Run from the school. Only medical people belong here. Go back, dark creature, to your native country. Go home. Go home.
Go home. When the smoke cleared, the students found a piece of wood dripping with blood. So they burned it in one of the pots, and the stench was like a corpse exhumed for its bones too soon. Too soon. They laughed at the smell.
Oh my God.